Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I can't see people are coming in. Welcome to Let's Talk Vaccines. Can you all see people as they come in?
I just see private chat.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here in about a minute. Brianna, is there a way I can see people coming in?
No, but you will see the comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we will go ahead and get started just in the name of punctuality. My name is Jessica Manning. I am one of the members of Now Medic team. Our other members are Deborah Gray, Candace Barr, Katrina Fordham-Burris, Jackie Mcintyre, and our guest, fabulous speaker, Nicole Swaner, also known as Doc Schweiner. We are the Now Medic team. If anybody is interested in joining the Now Medic team, I'll go ahead and make a shameless plug here. Feel free to reach out to us after this, or you're welcome to email us through our email, which will be posted later on if anyone has questions. But going forward, I'll go ahead and introduce our special guest today. Her name is Nicole Swaner. She is voted one of 10 best doctors in North Carolina. Doc Schweiner is a family physician, a 6-time best-selling author, blogger, speaker, wife, and mother in Durham. She is also affectionately known as the Superwoman Complex expert and has written 2 best-selling books on the topic, which has now evolved into the No Superwoman lifestyle brand with merchandise and events. Additionally, with her company, Swaner Publishing Company, she helps writers become best-selling authors and entrepreneurs from start to finish. She loves taking care of her family as a whole with interest in minority health, women's health, self-care, and female entrepreneurship. She attended Duke University and went to medical school at the Medical University of South Carolina. She's lived in the Triangle, Durham, since finishing residency at UNC Chapel Hill, and continues teaching as an adjunct associate professor with the family medicine department. When she's not treating patients at Durham Family Medicine, she's spending time with her family, speaking nationally, freelancing for WebMD and the Birdie Beauty brand, and teaching others to self-publish. She has become one of the nation's experts on self-care, imposter syndrome, physician burnout, and well-being. So she's fabulous amongst many things. If we will have her contact information later as well. And so first we wanted to start with Jackie. She's going to give us a little background on research and just vaccines in general.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie. Sorry, I was mic'd there or muted there. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information on vaccines and what they are. And this is mostly from the CDC fact page. Vaccines basically contain the same germs that cause disease, such as the measles vaccine contains measles virus and that sort of thing. They are either killed or weakened to the point that they don't make you sick. And some vaccines only contain part of the disease germ. The point is for the vaccine to stimulate your immune system to produce antibodies, exactly like it would if you were exposed to the disease itself. For instance, the chickenpox vaccine kind of gives you the same antibodies that it would if you'd actually been exposed to chickenpox by a classmate or whatnot. After getting vaccinated, you develop immunity to that disease, without having to get the disease first. So that is the benefit of the vaccine. And this is what makes vaccines such powerful medicine. Unlike most medications, which treat or cure diseases, vaccines prevent them. So that is why we're talking about the COVID vaccine today, so that we can help people prevent getting the COVID infection. And so a lot of people have these concerns about the fact that it was approved before it was officially FDA approved. And just some information on how that works as far as the early release of vaccinations. The whole point of the FDA is to make sure that these drugs or vaccines are safe and that they cause more benefit than harm. And so for it to be an early release, it doesn't mean that it didn't go through any kind of testing. It just means that the need for the vaccine outweighed the completion of the 4 or 5 phases that a drug or vaccine typically will go through before it's approved for, everyone in the population. So, we want to kind of not necessarily tell you should get it, but we want to relate to kind of mitigate that fear of it being an early release vaccine versus something that's gone through all the phases. It has been found to be beneficial even at this point, even though it didn't go all the way to phase 4 and it maybe finished phase 2 or whatnot. So that's kind of why we're here today, to answer any questions for anybody who might have them. So.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And just for everyone, we're going to have a point for question and answer directly with Dr. Swaner after sort of the presentation part of this. And so if you would, you're welcome to put your questions in the chat if you have them there, or you can have access to our email address that you can send them if your questions don't get answered while we're on the live, and we can get them answered for you shortly after. So if you would, just save your questions for then. So the next part of our vaccine talk is going to be a Q&A with Dr. Schweiner and one of our members, Katrina.
Good afternoon, everyone, and hello, Dr. Schweiner. Thank you so much for joining us for this very essential, vital topic. We're talking about the COVID vaccine. So I was very privileged to have the opportunity to work with you one-on-one in kind of your day-to-day working at your private practice, Durham Family Medicine, and actually had the opportunity to see firsthand some of the different environments that you were placed in, working with patients, your COVID clinic, things of that nature. So I just kind of want to drive the conversation with that as a foundational piece. And if you could, if you could tell our audience a little bit about the 3 vaccines. A lot of questions are around the differences between the 3. So if we could just kind of start there, I think that'd be a great starting point.
Absolutely. Hello, Now Church family. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to see you guys virtually and hopefully soon in person. And congratulations to my wonderful interviewer, Dr. Katrina Burris, who just walked the stage and got her letters behind her name. Yes, ma'am. More letters, more letters. So thank you, Dr. Katrina, for that that intro, and Miss Jessica and Deborah and Jackie and Candace and everybody for inviting me on, Pastor Nate and First Lady Tequila. So yes, so as mentioned, I am a family physician and I work and co-own Durham Family Medicine, which is a private practice in Durham, and we do full spectrum family medicine. So we take care of the whole family from start to finish. And we have, been taxed with working our way through this crazy pandemic, trying to figure out not only how to protect ourselves and our families from catching COVID, but how to protect our patients and treat them and cure and, help to spread the good word of the information that we get on a daily, which seems to change every day, about COVID and the vaccines and the treatments, et cetera. So it's been a crazy year. It's been a challenging year, but God has kept us, thank the Lord, and we've been safe and healthy in my household. And so I'm trying my best to get the word out to the world and our community about how to protect ourselves and move past this pandemic even more. So, so Katrina was able to come during, right at the end of her doctoral program to come and just be with us and see how we've been operating, particularly during the pandemic, and trying to navigate the differences and the changes in protocol, how to keep our staff safe, with mask protocol and checking temperatures and all these things. But I was very, very, very excited when the vaccines hit the scene. And I don't know, if you happen to follow me on social media, I've been very open and honest and transparent about my own journey as just a person living through this pandemic, and actually tested positive myself in December for COVID. And thank the Lord, I was asymptomatic, no problems. We think it's likely a false positive, meaning, labs can be falsely positive and falsely negative. And so because of that, I was even more excited to hear that the vaccines were available. I think that very same week, the vaccine was first given to a Black nurse in New York. She was the first person here, or first person in America to get it. So that was exciting watching that, but it also made me a little nervous, right? So as Ms. Jackie mentioned, yeah, it felt like it was fast, right? So we had, this novel virus, meaning the first of its type, although coronavirus has been here forever. So coronavirus, the actual species or family of viruses, has existed forever, but the 19, that one was brand new. Popped up in March or February of 2020, and then less than a year later, we have a vaccine to treat it, which sounds great, but clearly, a lot of folks have some hesitancy. So a lot of my job this last year has been learning about it myself because I had questions. So doing the research, talking to the people that developed them, talking to my friends and colleagues in research, and then trying to translate and educate, particularly our marginalized populations, our Black and brown folks, on the importance of protecting ourselves because we're dying at 3 times the rate than the general population from this disease. So even more important for me to be able to explain the differences of all the vaccines. So that's my long background as to how we got to this point here. But I'm excited about the opportunities we have now to get the vaccines. I'm excited that almost everyone has access to it, because that was also an issue in the beginning, is how we're going to get these vaccines out to people that really need them. But there's almost no excuse right now to not have the vaccine if you want it, because thankfully we have it, available in multiple places. The big 3, as Dr. Katrina referred to, are the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, and the controversial Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which was removed for a minute and then it came back recently. So we've had a lot of heated debates about all the vaccines, especially Johnson & Johnson lately. So, I don't know, we can go a lot of different ways with talking about the differences and the pros and cons, but I don't know. Did you have any specific ways you want to go about it, Dr. Katrina?
Sure. So there's a lot of discussion around the 2-shot dose versus the 1-shot dose. Can you provide us a little bit of insight about maybe some of the major differences and similarities between each?
Absolutely. So Pfizer and Moderna were the ones that came out first. They are both mRNA. You may have heard of DNA. RNA is similar to that, and mRNA is the message RNA message system that Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are made of. They are the 2 doses. So Pfizer, you get 1, and then in 3 weeks you get your second dose. And then Moderna, you get 1, and then in 4 weeks you get your second dose. And they are made the same way. Johnson & Johnson is the 1 dose. And I know a lot of my folks are waiting for that, that one hit a quitter, or that 1-shot deal, 1 shot and I'm done, because, needle phobia, or they're just like, I just have to deal with this one time. But it's made differently. It's actually made from particles of the viral, like the covering of the virus, so not the actual virus itself, but pieces or particles of the virus that the body then recognizes as foreign, and then it produces the antibody response. So it is different than Pfizer and Moderna. It also is just 1 dose. The biggest difference, other than the way that they're made and how frequently you get them, is Johnson & Johnson is less effective, right? So Pfizer and Moderna, 2 doses, mRNA. Neither of these, by the way, have anything to do with the actual virus itself. So none of these contain the actual virus. That's a big question I get from patients too, is that, am I actually getting COVID? No, you're not. It's a message to the body to create antibodies against the virus, because they sort of look like what the virus looks like. But the other major difference, and why I I'm not a huge fan. There are a lot of reasons I'm not a huge fan of Johnson & Johnson right now, but it's less effective. Pfizer and Moderna are at least 95 to 97% effective against you catching COVID-19, whereas Johnson & Johnson is like in the mid 70s.
Wow.
So those are the big three differences.
Wow. So that's really good information to know, because I didn't necessarily know that they were made up differently, the actual makeup of them, which leads me to my next question. So a lot of people in the community are concerned kind of about the preparation leading up to getting the vaccine. There are a lot of, rumors, and different people have side effects about, oh, I was sick, I was tired, I had a headache, my body was aching. Can you provide our audience with maybe some tips or resources as they prepare if they're interested in getting their very first shot?
Yeah. So as Ms. Jackie mentioned, she was very, she did a great job on describing how it seemed like things happened so quickly. It wasn't that steps were skipped in developing these vaccines. It's just that we actually had a lot more resources, a lot more hands on deck, a lot more money to be able to use to do the research. And we knew how emergent the situation was. I mean, people were dying. So we knew we had to get the job done. It wasn't that we skipped phase 1, phase 2, and all of that. We were just, imagine, there are multiple different pharmaceutical companies working on multiple drugs and vaccines at one time. When COVID hit, they said, okay, everybody focus here, this one thing. So more people were able to work on it. It took shorter the amount of time because they were able to do faster work. Right. So just to back up what Sister Jackie said, that no steps were skipped, none. Okay. Now we got emergent, we got the emergent approval to use it again because people are dying. It's actually, unethical to have something that will help someone and people are dying and you're not using it. Right. That's unethical. So for the FDA to say, you know what, we have great evidence, great benefits, let's go ahead and put this on the market is actually a great thing. It's also really great that the FDA has been very, very heavily involved in watching for the side effects, which is proven by J being snatched off the market, right? So we got all these negative reports about Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca, which actually hasn't even hit the American market. In Europe, they're watching AstraZeneca and didn't like what was happening, so they took it off the market. So the FDA is watching. We're just not out here willy-nilly just putting shots in people. It's highly regulated. And so that should give you some reassurance. And that should give you a little bit of comfort that these aren't just, we're not experimenting, right? We have proof that these are helpful. And I may have gotten off on a tangent. Did I answer your question?
You did. So for people in our network or our communities that are wanting to get the vaccine but have fears about the side effects, are there any tips that you can provide to them to maybe put them at ease? Like, for example, hey, before you go get your first one, take a Tylenol or aspirin or whatever an hour before you go. Maybe just some tips to kind of ease their mind about the potential side effects that they might experience. Because everybody doesn't get that, right? Some people don't.
Which is interesting. So everybody's different. Everybody's immune system is different. Everyone's immune response is different. Everyone's health history and the medications that we're on are different. So all of that has to do with how you will respond to the vaccine. I tend to think if you have some side effects, that means you got the real thing. You got some stuff, right? Because there's been some reports about people, unfortunately, showing up and getting saline, right? Or just water essentially injected and not getting the real thing. So I tend to think if you got some side effects, that means you really got a good immune response and what's there. But you're right. Not everybody will have the side effects, but side effects are side effects, meaning it's not because your body isn't tolerating the thing. It's your body is dealing with it. It's producing antibodies and your body is getting used to it. So you can pretty much, assume that you're going to feel something, right? So me, for instance, I got Pfizer, and that's just the one that I happened to, in my medical association, that's just the one that happened to be supplied to us. In our practice, we have Moderna, but either one is fine. So got Pfizer. There's a controversy as to whether you should take medicines prior to getting your shot, particularly like ibuprofen. There's some thought that it may decrease your immune response. So I ended up taking a little bit of Tylenol just because, I didn't want to hurt that much in my arms. So a little bit of Tylenol before I went first dose. Went, got my shot, had a little bit of soreness, similar to when I get a tetanus shot. And by the next day and day after, I was great. Second dose, I felt it. So second time, ended up not doing Tylenol before because, again, I didn't want to blunt the immune response. I wanted to really, really feel it, really get those antibodies. But when I got home that night, I went ahead and took some Tylenol. So I didn't take Tylenol before, but I took it after. And then before I went to bed, I took ibuprofen. This is after getting the shot, not before. Felt good that night, was good. But the day after, for about 6 hours, it hit me. So I was in front of the fireplace and with a blanket. I had chills. I had a little bit of headache. Not so much the fatigue, but I had headache, chills, and what else? And my arm was sore, And so I was laughing and joking with my kids who were kind of watching me like, what is happening? I was telling them I was turning into a superhero. Because my antibodies were, they were building up. And so I was like, oh, I turned into Superwoman. They were like, okay, we get it. But by the end of the evening, I was fine. No problem. So to be safe, just assume you're probably going to feel something, particularly that next day. Have your Tylenol and ibuprofen on hand, lots of fluids. I know a lot of employees are giving a lot of employers are giving their employees the day after off just to let you rest, which is smart too. And, you'll recover. You'll be all right.
So speaking about the children, I saw a message pop up in the chat. So, there's a lot of news coverage right now about the vaccine being made available to the younger population. Yeah. What is your buy-in and your thoughts about that?
I'm excited because, so my kids aren't of the age yet. However, if they were above age 12, so it's between ages 12 and 17 that Pfizer has now been approved. I just saw a report today that Moderna's next. I'm excited. I'm excited, particularly as I think about my kids going back to school.
Right.
Because we kept them virtual the entire year, even when they decided to do hybrid and take some of the kids back. We decided to keep them here, let people get those shots, let those antibodies get in, let the numbers decrease. So the more of their fellow students and the classmates can get the shot, the better, because then that protects my kids until they can get the shot, right? So I'm excited about it. I have a number of patients that have been able, teenagers and adolescents that have been able to get it. And they felt fine. I've heard zero bad reports, no negative effects or side effects. So I'm really excited that our kids are able to go ahead and get it.
Okay. That's great information. And I think one of the last questions I'd like to pose to you, Dr. Schweiner, with the governor kind of raising a lot of the mandates, right? The mask mandates, there's a lot of kind of back and forth. Some people, I'm tired of masks. Now they don't have to wear the mask. Now they're complaining about not having to wear the mask. So what are your thoughts about vaccinated individuals in different spaces, whether it be at church, because, a lot of us are returning back to services in person. A lot of the community have concerns about that. What is your buy-in on that topic?
So I am, again, this is all good news because that means that we're all moving in the right direction. The governor wouldn't be dropping and lowering the requirements if it were not for really good numbers, right? So numbers looking better, deaths are decreasing, hospitalizations are decreasing, and the amount of people getting their shots is increasing. That's all good news. So happy that the governor is ready to start, loosening those restrictions, but still a little nervous that, folks that are not able to get vaccinated, like some folks that, younger than age 12 or haven't had access to it or have been sick and can't get the shot yet. I'm nervous for them because not necessarily for vaccinated people to go maskless, but for some unvaccinated people who have just rushing to it, rushing to snatch that mask off and not be as safe as we once were. I'm nervous for people who are unvaccinated to get it from other unvaccinated people. However, for vaccinated people that have been fully vaccinated, meaning you're 2 weeks after your second dose or 2 weeks after your first dose, if you happen to have the Johnson & Johnson, I think it's okay to go without your mask in the presence of other vaccinated people. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, which, it's not the gospel, but I feel safe. I'm still wearing my mask. So when I go to the grocery store, even if I'm taking a quick walk outside, yes, I'm one of those crazy people still with their mask on. I don't wear it in the car. That's my husband. Don't tell him I told you. Don't tell him I told you.
He's watching, you know.
Huh? What?
He's watching.
He probably is.
He is.
But that's okay too. So you know what? Disclaimer: let people do what they feel comfortable with, right? We don't have to judge people. If they want to keep their masks on from here on out, so be it. So be it. So let's not judge each other. Let's not mask shame each other. I definitely have heard of people being like inside a store or at a restaurant where they had their masks on and maybe they didn't necessarily have to have it on. But another maskless person would come and say, well, you know, we don't have to wear a mask. You can take it out. Let people do what they want to do. Okay? Let them do. But as for me, I am going to continue wearing my mask when I'm inside, definitely inside the clinic, although the majority of my staff and patients are vaccinated, inside a restaurant until it's time to eat. If I can't eat outside, if I'm walking in a grocery store, you know, I'm also role modeling it for my kids because they will still have to wear masks. You know, they can't get the vaccine yet. So not only am I trying to protect them, because even though you're vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and transmit it to someone else. Even though you may be okay, even if you catch COVID, you can still give it to somebody else. So I still have 2 young kids I got to look out for. I still have patients I have to look out for. So I will still be wearing my mask. If you are unvaccinated, please continue wearing your mask everywhere and get the shot.
And that was a great point that you put up too. I know we need to move on. However, that was another question that, you know, has been kind of swirling around. Like, if you have the vaccine, can you still catch COVID? And kind of what should you expect if you do catch it and you have the vaccine? Can you just quickly kind of cover that? And then, you know, I'm going to go and turn it back over to Ms. Jessica.
Yes, so you can still catch COVID-19 if you've gotten your vaccine. There's still a 3 to 5% chance, you know, with Pfizer and Moderna of still catching COVID-19. There's even greater percentage chance with Johnson & Johnson, because remember that it only covers you like 75 to 78%. Wow. So there's still like 20-something% chance that you could still catch COVID. The hope is, though, is if you do catch it, hopefully you will be asymptomatic, right? You won't have any symptoms, or you'll have a very, very mild case like a cold or a flu, right? The shots, Pfizer and Moderna, 100% will cover you from having severe disease from COVID-19, hospitalization, or dying. 100%. Who wouldn't want 100% protection from that, right?
Right.
So despite what side effects you have, those big 3, that was the thing that really made the decision for me. But yes, you can still catch it. And so the even bigger concern is you can still catch it. And even though you feel fine because you're vaccinated, you could go and visit your grandmother who's on chemo, who can't get the vaccine for some reason now, and you can transmit it to her and she can have severe disease, or to your child that can't be unvaccinated because they're not of age. So it's still very serious. You still have to be very careful and really, you know, be in control of your environment. You know, I like to joke that, you know, we outside and we're out in the street, but I try to move in my bubble. So I'm vaccinated, my husband's vaccinated, our, you know, family, our Blexlence crew, Dr. Katrina, we are vaccinated. So we try to move as a unit when we go outside to kind of create a bubble. So, you know, be very choosy about where you are and who you're around.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Swaner, for taking the time to talk with me today and answer some burning questions. I do see that there are more coming up in the chat, which we'll have opportunity to kind of address those later. But for right now, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jess.
Thank you, guys. And thank you again, Dr. Schweiner and Dr. Katrina, as you have graduated. Congratulations again. That was very, very helpful and very, very insightful. And I hope a lot of people gain some knowledge from those answers. So next, the team, the med team, is going to talk about their specific interactions with the vaccine. We've all been vaccinated, and so we'll just kind of go around and yeah, thumbs up for all of us. We'll go around and just kind of give our experience. I'll go ahead and start. So again, my name is Jessica Manning. I'm a nurse at UNC Chapel Hill. I work with heart failure patients, and I've been vaccinated since the end of January. I didn't actually have the big immune response that a lot of people have been having, and I was kind of bummed out about it, to be honest. It sounds weird because I was thinking, you know, if I feel something, that means my body sees it, it's reacting, it's saying, hey, you don't belong here. So I thought I was going to be good to go. However, my arm did hurt. My arm hurt pretty bad both times, both first dose and second dose, but I didn't have any other reactions. My husband has now been vaccinated, and he's had the same sort of experience. And so we both haven't had the big immune response, both had pretty severe arm pain, but didn't really require any medication for that. So that was good. But Miss Deborah, would you like to go next and share your experience with the vaccine?
Okay, I'm a LPN at the VA hospital. I got my vaccine in December. At first, I wasn't going to get it. And then the Holy Spirit says, you need to get it. So I got my vaccine, didn't have any side effects. Arm wasn't sore. I am a vaccinator champion. So the same day I got my vaccine, I went downstairs and gave vaccines the rest of the day to some of the employees. Since then, I have signed up all my children, didn't ask them if they wanted it, got them scheduled at Walgreens, sent them the text and say, you go and get your vaccine. The kicker was my youngest one, which is a millennial. Took a while for him to get his. So the day that he finally got it, he got Johnson & Johnson. And then the next day they stopped it. But it was good.
Looks like we lost Jessica temporarily. Dr. Katrina, would you like to go next?
Sure. So my name is Dr. Katrina Burris. I'm a medical lab director for Wake County. I was vaccinated a couple months ago now. My husband is also vaccinated. We have small babies, 7 and 2, so they don't fall in the category to get vaccinated quite yet. But my experience was very mild. I did have some slight side effects after my second shot, but it wasn't anything that, I could really say was bad. I was just really, really tired. I just felt like I had not had sleep for an extended period of time. But other than that, my experience was good. My husband also had a very pleasant experience. Having worked in the medical field, and also I have a little person that's joining us. Having worked in the medical field, and especially in the field of public health, I felt that it was very essential for me to get the vaccine because of my exposure, not only to my family, but also to our patients. So that was pretty much my driving force behind getting vaccinated. I want to keep my little people safe. I want to keep my patients safe, and I want to stay safe too.
Thank you, guys. Miss Jackie?
Yes, my name is Jackie Mcintyre. Like I said, I am a nurse at Duke. I work in the adult oncology field. And so I originally was going to wait and see kind of how a lot of my other Black, medical field cohorts were tolerating the vaccine before I did it. But I think Duke started vaccinating employees in early December. I finally relented and went on and got my first shot at the end of December. Got my second one the Martin Luther King weekend because I'd be off on Monday, so I didn't have to take any time off. But I actually the sore arm probably was I guess if you could say the worst side effect that I had. Maybe a little mild headache and a little just kind of a yuck feeling the first shot. Second shot, no side effects whatsoever outside of my sore arm. And so, it was very, I won't say pleasant, but, it wasn't something that I having worked in research, I was like, you know what, Jackie, you got to be an example. So I did go ahead and do that and make sure that, my family members and that sort of thing knew what to expect and the things that, they needed to know. So it was a decent experience and I'm glad I did it.
Good. And last but not least, Candace.
Hello, I'm Candace. I'm a medical student at UNC at Chapel Hill. And I've been vaccinated since February of this year, and my husband is vaccinated as well. With my experience, I had arm pain, chills, and I just didn't feel right, but it was only for like a couple of hours and I slept it off and it was okay. part of the reason why I got the vaccine is I was going into clinical settings now, transitioning, and I was going to be around pediatric patients who aren't covered, who can't get the vaccine. So I felt like it was my duty to get the vaccine. Another apprehension was I have allergies and I didn't know how I would respond to the vaccine. But once I got there, the process was seamless. They asked me if I had allergies, and I told them my allergies, and it didn't have anything that would react with the vaccine. And I was comforted that I was able to wait for 30 minutes and they could keep an eye on me after every shot. So that was my experience with the vaccine. And I encourage all of you all to go get vaccinated. If not for yourself, just do it for your community.
Thank you, Candace, and thank you, guys. So lastly, we're just going to open it up to questions. If people have questions, I see in the chats. For some reason, my chat is not showing the questions. So Jackie, if you can see the questions, would you mind reading out some questions so Dr. Swaner can answer them?
Okay, so the main one is the one that just popped up, because I think she's posted it twice now, just to make sure.
Okay.
About her bad food allergies and whether or not, she said her doctor recommended the Johnson & Johnson shot, but she wants to take the Pfizer and she's going tomorrow. Any recommendations for people with food allergies?
Yes. So, I'm echoing. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as I said, I'm not a big fan of Johnson & Johnson, so I'm glad that you're already signed up to get Pfizer. And from a food allergy perspective, I don't think there's any reason that you should have any other or any more concern than, if you were to get the flu shot. Actually, I take that back. You actually may have more concern for the flu shot because there are people that like the food allergies that can't tolerate the flu shot. But no, there's no contraindication. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to tolerate the Pfizer vaccine. And my husband has really bad, dust, pollen, tree, fruit allergies, and he was a little bit nervous too. But what I told him was just to take some Benadryl with him, and tell whomever that the person is administering the vaccine about your allergies. And just like med student Candace said, just let them know and they can observe you for a little bit longer than the usual 15 minutes. And then, if you have any problems or concerns, call your doctor the next day. But go ahead and get the Pfizer. I think you'll be all right. I see a question from Maria Whitehead. Do you want me to go ahead and answer, Jessica?
Sure, go right ahead.
Yeah. So just asking about side effects later down the road from vaccine or health complications. I don't think so. The literature has not shown that to be the case. I know there's been some concerns about issues with fertility and other types of things, but there's nothing in the literature from the research that says anything related to that. So no, I don't anticipate that there will be long-term side effects or long-term health complications from the vaccine. Clearly, they're still being followed and studied, so we'll see. But as of right now, I'm not concerned. Right. Myra Timms is asking about people with autoimmune disease. She gets infusion treatments. That's what some hospitals use to treat COVID patients. Correct. So I've had a number of autoimmune patients that have received the vaccine and have done very well. Very well. Actually, because of your autoimmune disease, you're actually at higher risk. So I would put you even higher on the list to get the vaccine sooner rather than later. So as long as you're talking to your physician and telling the person that's giving you the shot about your history, then I think you'll be fine. I would much rather put my eggs in you getting the vaccine basket than us risking you catching COVID basket and having to deal with those problems as an autoimmune patient.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Let me see if there's any more questions here.
And I'm swiping through the Facebook broadcast too.
Okay.
People are saying, I'm still wearing my mask. Yes.
Right.
Do it. Yeah. My husband says she's putting my business in the street. He heard me. Oh, there he is. He heard me talking to me. That's funny. Any other questions, folks? I want to make it as easy and I want you to be as educated as possible, and I want you to actually hear it from the horse's mouth. I don't want you getting your stuff from social media and from the media. I want you to talk to people that have been doing this for this past year and really have followed the research. Okay.
So I actually have a question. So what would you say to the African American community? Earlier in our talk, you talked about kind of the rates of death and different things amongst the African American community. Just in, being in conversation, a lot of the African American community have a lot of fears because of historical references, right? Like the Tuskegee experiment, things of that nature. So what would you say to that population to give them a little bit more security when it comes to getting the vaccine?
Absolutely. So we definitely have had these conversations in practice as well. I have a large population of African American and Latino folks in my clinic, so we have these conversations daily. So yes, there has unfortunately been a lot of horrible things in history that has happened between the medical community and Black and Brown marginalized populations. The difference with this time, or what's happening now with COVID and the vaccines, is the amount of information we have access to. So with Tuskegee and with other issues that might have happened in the past, a lot of that information was hidden. It was kept secret. We were used as guinea pigs without our knowledge. We were experimented on without our consent. This situation is different. Thankfully, we have all of the information is available to us. We know what's happening. We see it on the news. We see it on social media. We have friends and family that have dealt with it, that are working on the research side and are helping to develop these vaccines. As you all probably know, Dr. Kizzy Corbett is right here from North Carolina. She helped to discover Moderna. And so we are involved in this process, whereas in the past, we were not allowed to be. And so I, am reassured by the fact that I can text Dr. Kizzy and I can talk to my other Black female colleagues in research and ask them directly, hey, what's happening? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about the vaccine? What are your concerns? And we know information. So that's a huge difference between now and what has happened to us in the past. The other good thing that we have now versus before is that we have we have opportunities to talk to people that look like us about it, right? So early on, thank God for Candace being in medical school now. She's going to be one of our, the next, right? We have many more of us on the side that can help to advocate for our people. We didn't have that before. We weren't allowed at the table. So that's the other thing that makes me feel better about this situation versus in the past is that, I'm here. We're here. We can have these conversations with a little bit more knowledge than we did before.
So there was a question. Facebook. Yes, someone asking about being pregnant, having the vaccine while you're pregnant.
Yes. Is it safe or not? Let's see. Comment about getting it while pregnant. She got mine at 19 weeks. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Saunders, please tell us what your experience was. I have been encouraging my pregnant and breastfeeding people to go ahead and get it. We, ACOG, which is the Association of OBGYNs, they are still following the research, but recently it came out that yes, breastfeeding mothers, go ahead and get your shot because also you're able to give antibodies to your baby through your breast milk, which can be life-saving, which is wonderful. I have friends and patients that are pregnant that are either, still a little bit hesitant depending on how early they are in their pregnancy about getting the vaccine. I think I've seen that a lot of OBGYNs are talking to their patients about maybe waiting until a little bit later in pregnancy, but still definitely get the vaccine. Marilyn Slaughter, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead.
She's asking for those that took the J&J and didn't get the second shot, should they get one of the other shots? Good question. At this point, no, because we don't know what will happen if you got J&J and you end up getting Pfizer and Moderna. We don't know what may occur, so I wouldn't get that. Now, what's happening for later? We're having discussions about will we all need a booster shot, which looks like we will, just like with the flu shot. Another good question is, if you got one this time, can you get a different one for your booster? And that's, the jury's still out, but I'm curious to see what occurs. I think for those that got J&J this time around, I hope that they'll be able to get a different type next time, just for better protection. All right. Gail Jones mentions there are a number of strains and variants in other countries and in the US. Will vaccination work for those? The answer is yes. Both Pfizer and Moderna have both proven that they can also cover the South African strains and the Brazilian strains. It may be a little less than at the 95 to 97% coverage than the original COVID-19 virus, but there is protection from the strain.
There was one question that I want to go back to so it doesn't get lost in there. But Tasha Barnes asked, is it true that people that have O blood type aren't as affected by the virus?
I keep hearing that question. I'm not sure. I've had a number of people ask me that and have talked about, what their research has been on that topic. So I don't want to mislead anyone. There is a question though. I keep hearing that a lot. I'm gonna have to do more research and come back to y'all about that. Have y'all been hearing that a lot? No, Dr.
I haven't specifically heard anything about blood types, but that would be interesting to know. It would be positive.
We'll see. Let me do some reading, and I'm hearing good news about that. Mm-hmm.
And then there was another question about how long does the vaccine last? I don't know if we have that information yet.
Right. So studies are ongoing. I have a friend of mine who's involved in one of the vaccine studies. They check her antibodies every couple of weeks, and she's at month 4 and still has positive antibodies. So I'm curious. I'm going to follow her along and see what she comes up with. But we're thinking we're probably going to need a booster shot anywhere between 6 to 12 months. So that gives me the thought that they're expecting antibodies to last at least 6 months for now. But jury's still out. We're still watching that.
What happened?
What happened? Somebody go away?
It may be my computer.
You're still with us, Ms. Deborah?
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question. Somebody asked me, do you think, and I was taken back by the question because I didn't even ever think about this, but somebody asked, would the vaccine ever cost? And I was under the assumption that it would not.
I would imagine.
Since they asked, I would.
Yeah. I get the flu shot every year and it doesn't cost me. And you get it free at all the pharmacies every year. So I assume that this will be the same for the COVID-19 shot. So I don't think that they'll end up charging for it. But we'll see.
I think there was a chat question about your thoughts as it relates to vaccines and individuals suffering from mental health disparities.
Okay. In terms of, is it safe? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe for folks with mental health issues?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've not seen any, I have seen the evidence of COVID-19, the infection, causing potential long-term mental health issues like depression and anxiety. So I would definitely want you to get the vaccine to protect you from, catching COVID and having a worsening of your mental health history. So get the shot, definitely. So having a mental health history does not negate the need for you to get the shot.
And for those that may be watching that may have mental health disparities and may be taking medications, is there any research on how the vaccine would react with those medications, or is that something they would talk to their primary care doctor about?
I guess you definitely should, have the conversation with your primary care or your mental health provider. But I've had a number of my patients get the vaccine, and some of them definitely are on medications for depression and anxiety and other issues, and it didn't cause any problems for my population. So definitely have the conversation with your doctors, but I don't think in general that should not prevent you from getting the vaccine. Green Trey asks, many folks think that if they have had the virus that they don't need the vaccine. Can you speak to this? That is false. If you've had the virus, you absolutely need the vaccine because you can get it again, or you can get a different strain the next time. So you can still get the virus even if you've had it 1, 2, 3 times. You get it multiple times. The other answer I'll put out there is for long haulers. So I don't know if you've heard the term long haulers yet, but if you've had COVID-19, you had a really bad case of it, you're recovering, but you still have some of the residual symptoms, there is benefit, or there's evidence now that getting the vaccine actually can help you feel better. So even more reason for those who have had the virus to get the vaccine to protect them and their family from catching it again. The young lady that says she got her vaccine at 19 weeks pregnancy says, I'm still here and I'm at 37 weeks. So that means she did all right. Good. Being in healthcare and exposure risk plus risk of Black maternal morbidity, I felt that risk outweighed the benefit. Chose to wait for the second semester. So that's her. So she waited for the second semester after 19 weeks to get the vaccine, and she did fine. Good. And hopefully your baby got some antibodies. That's the next question. Which would be great.
See, we have about 5 minutes left before, if anybody else has any more questions. And then, of course, if you have more questions after, you can email the med team, and that will be up for you to see. But it's nowmedteam@nowchurchnc.com. And so you can have further questions sent there, and we will get back to you with answers.
Now, I have a question. A lot of people say after you get the vaccine, you cannot pass it on. That you can get COVID, but you can't pass it to nobody else. Is that true?
It's much less likely that, number one, you'll get it and then be able to pass it on, but there's still that small percentage, probably close to 1% chance that you could catch it, you're fine, but then give it to an unvaccinated or a immunocompromised person. So that's kind of part of the explanation I have for continuing to wear my mask. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm vaccinated, my children are not. So I'm going to protect myself from catching it and passing it on to vulnerable patients. Okay. And I think that kind of gets to this question here about adults that have been vaccinated. Now a rule, you don't have to wear your mask. How does it impact our kids who aren't vaccinated? So that's it. I'm continuing to wear my mask for their sake.
And just one last question about the vaccine and COVID testing. So I know that, initially before the vaccine was approved and was out, a lot of people were getting tested every week or every couple of weeks, depending on their career or whatever have you. What would you say to those vaccinated individuals like all of us on the call as it pertains to continually testing for COVID, since you've already mentioned that we can pass it on, we may not have symptoms? Do you have a recommendation as far as how often we should get tested? Should it be every week still? Should it be a couple times a week? Do you have any feedback about that as we get ready to wrap up?
Yeah. So I haven't seen any official recommendations on it, but I'll tell you what I've been doing. I am one of those people that was testing myself pretty much every week in clinic, but just to make sure that I didn't catch it and was asymptomatic and all that. Now that I've been vaccinated, I'm still testing, but it's a lot less frequently. So instead of every week, it's every 2 to 3 weeks, or if we've gone somewhere, we have traveled since being fully vaccinated. So when I come back, I usually will test. So there's no official recommendation, I don't think, but what I've felt comfortable with is testing, but maybe not as frequently. And then definitely testing if I think I've been exposed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any last questions before we wrap up this evening? Thank you all again for joining and being with us, and hopefully you got some questions answered. I don't think I see any more. Well, Dr. Swaner, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for spreading some knowledge and being with us. Continue doing your good work and being fabulous as you are. And thank you everyone that took their time this evening to watch. And hopefully, like I said, you have been informed and you hear it, like you said, from the horse's mouth, and spread the word to people, who still would love some information. And, at the end of the day, it's your decision to make. And so you respect your decision. We respect your decision. Of course, you have to do what's best for you and your family. But hopefully that means getting vaccinated. Anyone else have any closing remarks before we head off?
Thank you guys
Well,
for having me. I appreciate you. Get your shot,
of
folks.
course. Well, thank you all again, and I hope everyone has a great evening.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.